Good morning, friends. This is Pastor Bakoshi. I want to share with us this morning on the issue of being on good terms with one another. Being on good terms. Now, being on good terms is an important factor if we want to have very excellent relationships. And excellent relationships don't come just like that. You have to work at them. You have to be intentional. You have to be deliberate about working on good terms with others, whether they are your spouse, whether they are your siblings, whether they are your children, whether they are your parents, whether they are your colleagues in the workplaces, wherever it is you find yourself. To be on good terms, you must realize that there are certain critical steps, certain critical factors you have to take into consideration. Now, one of them is what Paul refers to as adiaphora. When I say Paul, I'm referring to the Apostle Paul as adiaphora. Now, when you go to Romans chapter 14 from verses 1 downwards, you will find what Paul was talking about there with regards to non-essentials. Adiaphora means non-essential items that often, when we allow it, will cause problem. Now, if you go to Ecclesiastes, I think, that talks about the little foxes that spoil the vine. These are the little foxes that spoil relationships. These are the little foxes that kill families, that kill spousal relationships with one another, that kill beautiful relationships, that make people to be on bad terms rather than on good terms. So if you want to think about how you deliberately work on this, you think about those things. Now, what is Paul talking about in Romans chapter 14 verse 1? One of the critical problems is the issue of eating together. Now, eating together for a Jew is very, very critical. It's very, very critical in the sense that because when you eat together for the Jew, you are like family. So the Jew will not eat together with the non-Jew, because non-Jews will not follow the kosher diets. Non-Jews will be people, perhaps like here, who like pork chops, people who like 404, duck meat, people who like snacks and stuff like that. So I don't eat those things. But does that mean I can't relate with you? Does that mean I cannot sit on the same table with you? Then, if that is the case, it means some of these things are not very important. Now, another issue that Paul talks about there is the issue of even drinking, what people drink, and so on and so forth. And then the issue of regarding certain days as important. There are people who chose to worship their God on a Saturday, that is Christians I'm talking about, on a Saturday or on a Sunday. So what? Some people don't want to regard Christmas as anything. So what? Some people will prefer to tell you that it is Xmas, not Christmas. A lot of people make a big hula baloo out of the issue of Xmas and Christmas and call people who say Xmas as unbelievers, without remembering that the X there is a big X, is Chi in the Greek, and Chi represents it represents CH. So when you now spell Christ in the Greek, you find that Chi and the He. So what is the problem? That this thing should cause people to be on bad terms, name calling and the rest of them. So what I'm drawing our attention to is that there are certain things that are non-essentials. Issues of opinion. Paul opened Romans 14 verse 1 with the issue of opinion. That the issue of opinion should not be something that divides us. So if your opinion is that way and my opinion is the other way, so all we need to do is to sit down and dialogue to understand where we're at. Now, for instance, you find spouses, somebody will say, I want to put on the AC or I want to put on the fan. And then the other one will say, no, I can't do that. And before you know, they begin to quarrel. It's a simple thing. Find a midway. Paul says, you can even give up that and say, okay, put on the AC. Or you can move to the living room or to the parlor and lie down so that you can be on good terms. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that, as Paul drew our attention to, that it is the person that is very critical. He said that Christ died for the person. Christ died for you and I. So we all rise and fall by our faith in Christ Jesus. So if that is the case, there is also the essential aspect of life where we can disagree strenuously. And with Paul, when you say Jesus is not Lord, Paul will come smoking hot at you, shooting from all cylinders at you, because you are breaking a critical aspect of the faith. Christ is Lord and no one else. But any other thing is non-essential. Christ is God. Christ is part of the Trinity. Any other thing is non-essential. Christ is the way to the Lord. Christ is the truth. Christ is the way. Christ is life. So if we have all these things together and begin to look at critically how we can engage one another constructively, we will always be on good terms. So be careful with the little foxes. Be careful with those non-essentials, because those are the things that kill beautiful relationships that we have. And that reminds me quickly of that at times we need to engage with embracing each other, and sometimes we need to be a bit exclusive so that we can rethink and see where do we stand. Because Paul tells us also there that whatever it is that you are doing, if it is not out of faith, and you know that it is good, and you are not doing it, it is sin unto you. So let's be mindful of this. Thank you.